Assistant Police Chief and President of the Major Cities Chiefs Association, Art Acevedo, has been taken to the streets alongside demonstrators to call out racists and call for real police reform. And he joins us now. I'm thrilled. We are all thrilled to have you here today, Chief. One of the things we want to talk about is you were one of the first city police chiefs to speak out after the death of George Floyd, and you've marched in solidarity with Black Lives Matters protesters in Houston. Why haven't we heard from other chiefs and union leaders about the atrocities that we see happening in the country and that are very clearly not the way police officers should be acting? Why aren't we hearing from more folks like yourself?
Well, good morning, ladies. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here. But I think that there's a lot of chiefs speaking out. I have the privilege of actually being the president of the Major City Chiefs Association, which is the 69 largest departments in the country and the 9 largest in Canada. And people want to know, why is this guy all over the place? Is because I'm representing and I'm lifting their voices on behalf of America's chiefs. So we have, as an organization, actually condemned what happened to Mr. Floyd, are condemning a lot of the things that are going on, and calling for the changes we need to reduce these incidents, these horrific incidents that happen in our country.
Chief Acevedo, yesterday, ex-Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe was charged with 11 counts, including felony murder in the death of Rayshard Brooks. If convicted, he could face the death penalty or life in prison. His attorney said in a statement that, quote, Rolfe's actions were justified. Last night, a number of Atlanta police officers called out sick in an apparent protest. This was very disconcerting to me. I thought this was something that could possibly happen in my city. Were these charges appropriate? And do you worry about more police officers taking sick days and walking off the job because it doesn't seem worth it to them?
You know, I think that I've been asked about that shooting. I haven't looked at it real closely, but based on what I have seen and known and do know, it's a problematic shooting for that officer when the individual was running away. And so I think he's going to have a tough road ahead. Having said that, I'm really proud of being the police chief in the most diverse city in the country, the most diverse big city in the country. Our department's homegrown. We're a minority-majority department serving a minority-majority city. And so far in our department, speaking for our agency, our men and women see this as an opportunity, these challenging times, to actually step up, rise to that challenge. They know that history is watching. We've been telling them that. They know that the country's watching, the world's watching, and a lot of them are people of faith, so God is watching. And so we see it as an opportunity to stand tall, stand with our community. When we do right, stand up for our officers. If they mess up, they've got to fess up, and if the sin is significant, they've got to pay the price, and which means sometimes losing their job or maybe even jail. But so far here in our city and in a lot of other departments, the officers are standing fast, because we're hopeful that a lot of the changes that we've called for in law enforcement, including dealing with the socioeconomic issues, the health challenges, mental health challenges, addiction challenges, all the things that we should be addressing as a nation, that this is a moment that the men and women in blue, the good men and women in blue, will be supported by thoughtful leadership that will actually start addressing the systemic problems in our country, including the systemic problems with race relations, and that go well beyond the law enforcement community.
So, Chief Acevedo, Democrats and Republicans have dueling proposals when it comes to police reform, addressing bans on chokeholds and no-knock warrants, creating a database to track officer misconduct, and the Democrats want to end qualified immunity, which shields officers from lawsuits. So do you agree with what's being proposed, and what reforms do you think are needed?
I think that that the Major State Chiefs, which again is all of my colleagues, because I'm the president, I'm not the I'm not the czar. We support just about all of those reforms. The qualified immunity, our initial position is we don't support eliminating it, but This is 2020. Qualified immunity is an area of law that hasn't been addressed in a long time, and we support the fact and the belief, strong belief, that we have to take a very critical look at qualified immunity to see if there's opportunities to adjust that law to make it easier for the community and departments to actually hold bad police officers that violate their oath of office, the Constitution, to hold them accountable. So I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we'd want to get rid of it completely, because we don't want to create a situation where police officers will hesitate to take decisive action protecting our community. But we're not. But we do believe that we have to explore how it can be adjusted to have a greater justice and accountability in our country.
Chief, your department has conducted these controversial no-knock raids, like the one that killed Breonna Taylor. In 2019, one of those resulted in the death of a couple. The officer, Gerard Goins, was charged with murder and tampering with government records. He has pleaded not guilty. Now, the Harris County DA anticipates it will dismiss more than 150 drug cases handled by Goins, who in 2004 arrested George Floyd on drug charges. There's also been criticism for not releasing dashcam videos of 6 fatal shootings by officers in your department. Do you believe that now is the time that these types of reforms that you just mentioned are necessary, will be addressed in your own house?
Well, absolutely. I like it. Let's for our start. I think Whoopi Goldberg was in L.A. when the Rodney King incident occurred in the early 90s. And as you recall, there was so much pretrial publicity that trial was removed from LA County, the most diverse county in the country, to Simi Valley, upper middle class community, predominantly white, and we know what happened with that trial. Those officers were all acquitted, and then that led to the LA riots. I was there as a young acting sergeant with the California Highway Patrol. 55 Americans lost their lives during those riots. I really believe that we have to be careful that we don't create an environment where we just release video willy-nilly. This is the most diverse city, the most diverse county in the country here in Harris County and Houston. I'm really concerned that if we release things before the criminal cases are heard, that we remove the ability of the people of Houston to render judgment. And if it ends up in East Texas that looks nothing like this melting pot, that's an injustice. So we need to be thoughtful. We need to remove the emotion. And at the end of the day, I've been showing the videos because the state law allows us to the families of our suspects that were deceased. They've been able to see them, and the majority of them so far, of the 6, don't want the video released. So we're going to come up with an actual process. The DA, Kim Ogg, and I are talking. We're going to let the community weigh in. Mayor Turner, our mayor, has set up a committee that hopefully by September, we will come up with a very thoughtful rules to be able to let the community know, here's what we think, here's what the community thinks, and we can be consistent in the way we approach these very, I think, challenging circumstances.